What's happening, guys? Welcome back. I can only apologise, it's been a little while since we've done the last video. Now, if you were here last time, you'd have seen that the track bike is now fully rebuilt. It's ready to go with exception to some decals, which is going to get done by Danny D pretty soon. I thought, what better way to continue than talk about track days? Now, whether you're someone who's done a track day, you're looking at doing a track day, or you have booked a track day, there's so much to learn, but it's such an enjoyable experience. Now, the idea of today's video is to really kind of help you wrap your head around the proceedings of a track day, what's expected, what's needed, and more importantly, how to prepare yourself. And whatever bike you take, whether it's a dedicated track bike or a road bike, both are acceptable to take on track within certain reasons, which is what we're going to go through today. So before we start getting into the intricacies of what you need, what you have to take with you, what you should take as spares, because it'll be quite overwhelming in one hit, we're going to go through the basic proceedings of the day to kind of explain what you can expect when you get there, the general timings and how it works. So first thing you've got to consider is how you're getting your vehicle to the track. Now, do you have your own trailer? Are you hiring a van? Are you looking at riding to the track and then riding back? Now, I would seriously recommend against riding to the track. I don't like to be pessimistic, but if you do unfortunately part ways with your bike on a track day, how are you getting that bike back home? I've been there, done it, and quite literally got the scars to show for it. So I would highly recommend either getting yourself a trailer for your vehicle, going with a friend who's got a trailer, or worst case, hire yourself a vehicle for the day that you can put the bike in the back of it, and then you know full well with 100% certainty, no matter what happens, your bike's making it home at the end of that day. Now, transport out of the way, there's a few things you can expect when you get to track. Now, it's gonna be busy. Depending on what tracks you go to throughout the UK, you're either gonna get the opportunity to get a pit, or you're gonna have to get yourself set up just outside the pits with something like a gazebo or something along those lines. If you take tracks such as Donington, for example, it's nice and easy. There's so much space. I think there's 32 or 33 pits or something like that. You'll get yourself a space in there, you'll get yourself set up, you'll get all your bike ready and prepared, and you will have power that you can plug your tyre warmers into, which we'll get onto later, and everything else associated with running around on a track day. So make sure you get to the track in good time. Most tracks will open at 7 in the morning, and believe me, you want to get there at 7. You will not believe how quick time goes when you're trying to get yourself and your bike prepared before the day starts. Once you get there, get yourself set up, get yourself ready to go, you will then go to what's called sign-on. Now, this is where they check your license to make sure that you can go on track. So you have to remember to take your license. Now, depending if you've got an A license or an A2 license is going to depend what you can and can't ride on track. Just because you're on a private track doesn't mean you can ride whatever bike you want. If you've got an A license, feel free, take whatever vehicle you want to take with you. If you're on an A2, you are still only allowed to ride bikes on track, which you would normally have with your A2 license on the UK roads. Now, there is some exceptions to this. You can get what's called special dispensation from certain companies such as MSV or No Limits. It's a fancy way of saying they give you express consent to go on track with whatever you want. Now, this can be based on your license capabilities. This can also be based on your age. Now, if you're 18 or under, chances are you're not getting on track. It's just how it is. However, if you're someone who races for a living, you can contact them and say, look, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'd like to come on this track day, can I, yes or no? They will give you the dispensation you need, and they will notify the sign-on team that even though you're under the typical age, you've got express permission to be there. Once you've signed on, you will then have a bit of time to chill out, get some food, relax, make sure everything's all ready to go, and then you will go over to your briefing, which is usually around 8:40 on most tracks. Sometimes they do it at 8:30, it just depends where you are. You will have an email the day before detailing all the proceedings of the day. It's really important to read it because it will tell you what time you're supposed to sign on, what time briefing is, and what time the first session is. Now, once you've done your briefing, you will get a sticker which you have to slap on the bike. You'll also get a wristband which you have to wear throughout the day. If for whatever reason you part ways with either one of those, you need to tell them straight away or they will not let you back out on track. Once your briefing's done, you go back, get yourself ready with your bike, and then you go out for your first session. You typically run the day as advanced group first, intermediate, and then novice. The advanced group will go out at 9 o'clock, and then at 9:20 you will have the intermediates, and then the novice group will go out at 9:40. Each session is 20 minutes long, and it's like that throughout the day. If we take the advanced group, for example, they will go out at 9 AM, 10 AM, 11, 12. At 1 till 2, there'll be a break. At 2 o'clock, they'll go out for their 5th session, and then 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, and that'll be their 7th and final session of the day. At that point, fingers crossed, all's gone well, you'll get your bike back in the van, and you'll be heading home happy. No issues, no crashes, and a massive smile on your face from hitting a mad track day. Now that's the general proceedings of a track day in a really quick whistle stop tour. Now, we can go into detail about it, but to be honest, you're not going to learn a great deal from it. It is as simple as have your license checked, get yourself and your bike ready, go do the briefing, get ready to go out and have an amazing day. Okay, so now you understand the proceedings of a general track day in the UK. You need to ensure that before you even get to track, your bike is ready and fit to go on track. Now there's a few things to look at when it comes to your bike. How good are the tyres looking? Now if the tyres aren't great, you can on a lot of the track days now have tyre support there. You've got companies that will change the tyres for you whilst you're on track. You can order tyres to the track and they'll do it for you, so don't panic. If you haven't got the freshest set of slicks or your supercoursers aren't looking too healthy anymore, you can almost guarantee that pretty much every track day you go to in the UK, there will be tyre support there. Now don't bank on this. There have been the odd occasion I've been on track and for whatever reason tyre support can't make it. So I always make sure that my tyres are in good condition and I've got my spare tyres as well as my wets, which is really important in case it starts raining before I get to track. So what else have you got to look at on your bike? Now, one thing you're going to have on every track bike is a brake lever guard. Now, there's for loads of different reasons they make you have this. There was an incident a few years ago, I think it was in Moto 2. One of the guys leant over and he grabbed the front brake of another rider going down the main straight, which is bonkers and just downright dangerous, but it happens. You'll also get the odd incident where you'll be really unlucky. Someone's elbow will come across when you're that close on track and it can hit that brake lever, which is just as dangerous, but it's completely unintentional. 99.9% of people are not going to do anything that daft, but it can happen. So a brake lever guard is a mandatory requirement on every single UK track day. Brakes. Are your brakes operating as they should be? Check it, spin the wheel, make sure that it's braking properly, make sure that those tyres are stopping when you hit that brake, because believe me, the last thing you want to do is get out on track and find that your brakes ain't braking no more. Believe me, it is terrifying when you go into that last corner, top speed at the end of the straight, and your brakes just don't want to do it anymore. So make sure your brakes are working and operating correctly, make sure they're topped up, the brakes are bled, and you've got good life left on your pads. Make sure the calipers are nice and free. Just give it a good once over with the braking system and make sure you're 100% confident in your bike's braking ability before you get there. Exhaust. Let's talk noise limits. Now, with every track in the UK, there is a noise limit. And that noise limit will vary massively depending on what track you're going to. From memory, I believe Donington is around 98 dB on their quiet day and then 105 on a noisy day. You probably think, well, how do I measure that? Well, you can get yourself a decibel reader. Now, this little device, a decibel reader, it will read it in loads of different ways and all that sort of stuff. But essentially all you have to do is ensure that your exhaust at a certain RPM is quiet enough from 1 meter's distance. You can have a look online. There's loads of different forums that tell you what RPM your bike is revved at on a noise test. Now, noise testing is done before you go out on track, and it's usually done before the first session, after sign-on, before the briefing. So you'll take your bike over there, they'll ask you to rev it to a certain RPM, and they will check with one of these devices. They stand 1 meter back, they get you to hold it. For example, the Kawasaki, it's a 600cc. I know for a fact they've had me hold this at places like Mallory at 6,500 RPM. You hold it, wait for this to stabilize, you take the highest reading that it was at 6.5K. Once you've got that reading, you need to make sure it's below the absolute maximum that you're allowed on track. If you are, happy days. If not, it may be beneficial to look at a track-specific exhaust or even getting a baffle just to see if that brings you below the noise limit. The last thing you want to do is get all of this prep, get yourself to track and find that your bike's too noisy to get on there. Now, if you've tested your exhaust and you know that it's too noisy, you're going to have to look at getting a track system. Now, it can just be a silencer, a baffle, it can be whatever you need it to be in order to get yourself below that decibel limit that the track has. Black Widow have got some amazing track systems at some really good and affordable prices. Any brands that I speak about in this video, any parts that you like the look of, there will be a list of all the websites and companies that I work alongside who can give you these parts, and some of them have got some discount codes which will really help you get into your track days. Now, the next thing to check on your bike is the oil. Make sure the oil has been serviced recently, it's clean, it's at the right level, and always take some spare oil with you. Now, we'll get on to spares later on, but just keep that in mind because you may burn through a little bit more than you anticipate. You've got to remember, you are wringing the neck out of these bikes on a track day. You do not want to be wringing the neck off your bike with old oil, poor quality oil, or lack of. It's just the worst concoction of things to happen when you're wringing the absolute neck of these at 16k RPM. It's just disaster waiting to happen, and it's not worth it. But anyway, now let's assume you checked your bike over, everything's cushy, you're on the right noise limits, your bike's recently been serviced, your brakes are working well, you've bled the system, your tyres are looking grand. Your bike's ready. You got nothing else you got to have a look at on your bike. Now let's talk motorcycle gear. So here we've got two different types of levers which you are permitted to wear on a track day. You got your one piece and you got your two piece. Let's focus on the one piece. I feel like this is most commonly worn. So let's start with one piece levers then. One piece levers, you've got to make sure they're in good condition. There's no holes, no rips. There's no tears anywhere in this. Now I've crashed in these levers on track previously and these have saved me a heck of a lot. Now, having said that, spin these round. Might be able to see from there, you might not. Now, these have had a bit of a knock where I went upside down at Donington. Now, considering these have been crashed in, if you have a set of levers which you've crashed in, you've got to make sure that there's no holes, no wear marks. Well, I say wear marks. This is superficial, it's surface. It hasn't gone below the surface. If it's gone below and you're looking towards the inner lining of the levers, you're not going to be allowed to wear them on track. Because if you come off and you hit the same spot, your levers are just going to tear apart instantly and your whole body's going to be exposed. Got to make sure that your levers are in good condition. Typical one piece, there's not too much to go through. You've got your shoulder guards, these have got elbow sliders, but you usually have elbow protectors. You've got your knee sliders, everything zips, is full length. So that's the one piece set. Now let's say you want to use a two piece set of levers instead. Now let's take these for example. These are the first ever set of two piece levers I've ever owned, with massive thanks to Furigan for sending these out. Now what do you need to make sure that you've got with a set of two piece levers? Well, firstly, you need to make sure that they zip up. And what I mean by that is they need to zip up fully around the waist. Now on the waistline of these levers, you can see there's a zip here. This goes the full way round up until the point where everything's joined together and is zipped up at the front. You need to make sure they zip up, because if they don't zip up and you do part ways with your bike, this is going to lift here, you're going to expose the whole underside of your skin here. And they're not going to allow that on track day. One, because they're not allowed to, and also, let's be honest, it's dangerous. You're flying around track at stupid speeds. God forbid anything happens, you don't need any exposed skin. So a zip up two piece is the only type of two piece that will be allowed on track. Standard things with two piece, you've got your shoulder pad protectors, you've got your elbow protectors, you've got your knee sliders on the front, you've got everything that you would have with a conventional set of one piece levers. Anything else other than a one piece or a two piece set of levers will not be permitted on track. No textiles, no AA rated jeans that you got from Knox last week and they're really comfortable. You're not going to be allowed it. It's two piece levers, one piece levers, or nothing. Now there is something else you're going to need underneath your set of levers, which they check for every session you go out. It's a spine guard. Now this is a real cheap spine guard that I literally got for about 30 quid off Amazon. It's acceptable, it does the job, and it just helps that additional impact and stops you from overstretching backwards should you part ways with your bike. Quite simple. You wear it like a jacket, straight over the shoulders, and then you have your waist strap. And it's as simple as that.
Now I can only apologise, there was a slight issue with the recording here. It hit a 30-minute mark on the camera and it stopped recording, and I didn't realise until this was all done. So this topic here, we're talking about spares and everything else you should take with you.
Okay, so you're gonna have to apologise if there's any background noise. I'm currently sat in my kitchen recording this segment because somebody didn't realise there was a 30-minute time limit on these cameras. Now there's two bits we missed out, one of which was really important, the other which is just a really nice thing to have on track day. First thing, most importantly, is the helmet. Now your helmet has to have an ACU gold stamp on it. Essentially it's a gold sticker, it's on the back of the helmet, and it just lets everybody know that that helmet has been tested to just better testing standards to ensure that it's ready for track in terms of its impact, the speed, everything about it. So you need to make sure your helmet's got that. Check on the back of the helmet, there'll be a small gold sticker and it'll say British Racing Association or something along those lines from memory, and it just lets people know that that helmet has been tested and is suitable for track. Now there are occasions, I know guys who I ride with whose helmet do pass for this accreditation, but for some reason the sticker's not on there. Now these stickers are put on by hand, and if somebody's missed it or they just forgot to do it or something along those lines, you're not going to be on the back of the helmet. If that's the case for you, contact the manufacturer directly or contact the retailer you purchased the helmet through, and they should be able to help you out on that side of things. The other thing we wanted to talk about was tyre warmers. Now once your bike's on the stands and you're in the pits or you're set up with a generator or something along them lines, tyre warmers is a really good thing to have. If you say the average track length is around 2 to 2.5 minutes per lap, it's going to take you a good 2 laps on most tracks to warm your tyres up to the point that you'll really be able to throw it over and have some fun. And even then, some days of the year you probably won't get them hot enough to be really grippy. Tyre warmers are a great thing for this. You can put them on the stand, stick the tyre warmers on for about an hour before you start, go and do your laps, go do your session, and then come back in and put your tyre warmers back on, and you know full well that your tyres are going to be hot and sticky the entire day, which is the best because you don't need to waste 25% of your track day total warming your tyres up. You can have them warm, hot, ready to go, straight out of the pits and really enjoy your day. Now hopefully there isn't anything else that's been missed on this video, but if you see me again in the next couple of minutes, then you know there has been. Aside from that, I hope you're enjoying it so far. I'll see you in a second. But yeah, take some spares, because you never know when you're going to need them. Fingers crossed you don't, but these things can happen. Last thing to take as spares, aside from obviously your pads, discs, all that sort of thing, bolts. check what bolts you've got on your bike, take an assortment of them, just in case you need to replace any, just in case any fall out. Look, let's be honest, the bikes are gonna be going flat out all day, vibrations are gonna happen. Unless they're Loctited, there is a chance they will come out. So just take some spare bolts with you. Once you've had a look at all the types of bolts you've got on your bike, it's definitely worth taking a set of tools with you. So a ratchet set, sockets, spanners, Allen keys, Torx keys, any tool you can think of that you've got, take it with you just in case you need it. The last thing you want is to be desperate for a part that you're having to run around all the different garages or the pits to ask someone to borrow a tool, and then you panic about getting out for your next session. So let's just say you are deciding to take your road bike on track. The rules are the exact same. So everything you have to have on a track bike like this, you have to have on your road bike. So a brake lever guard is mandatory, noise limits are the exact same, everything's the same. So you've got to ensure that everything on here is the same as what it could be on here to ensure that you're allowed on track. Now headlights, you're going to want to tape them up. You don't want to be dazzling anybody else. You don't want to be affecting your photos, which the photographers are taking. So make sure you tape up your headlights. It also does help. If you do lay the bike down, it stops loads of these bits smashing and going all over the track, which just adds to the cleanup time. Mirrors, tape them up, or if you've got a set similar to these Resumos, fold them in. You don't need them. You don't need to be looking behind you. You don't need to be worried about what anybody else is doing. If they want to go around you, they'll go around you. Now, the one thing I will bring into play before we go is camera positions. Now, on a bike, you can have camera pretty much wherever you want, whether it's an Ace Pro, a 360, anything along them lines. The only place you're not allowed to mount it is on the body of the fuel tank. You can't have anything on the fuel tank. It's just a standard rule, you're not allowed it. Now, on your helmet, you're not also allowed any cameras. When you get to the track day, I personally take everything off the helmet. So my center mount, the camera mounts, everything comes off. The only thing that stays on is my chin mount. Now I've been on one track day in the past, which was at Silverstone a few years ago, where they made me take everything off. I wasn't allowed anything on the helmet. I've also been to places like Donington and Bedford where they've just been like, take the camera off, take the communication system off, and you can leave the mounts on there, no problem. So personally speaking, I'll just take it all off of there and make sure the helmet's clean. So the last thing you want to do is get to the end of the pit lane and they say, sorry mate, you've got to go back to the pits and take all that off. We're not allowing you out on track like it. So take it off, it's not worth it. Or do what I do and get yourself a dedicated track helmet that you know full well you can just go out and use it, no issues whatsoever. Other than that, that is pretty much everything covered for the basics for a UK track day, whether you're on your track bike or your road bike. Yeah, I guess if you guys have got any questions, drop them in the comments below, drop me a message on Instagram. I'm sure myself or people watching this video who may have some positive impacts on your questions will be able to give you a really good input in there and help you along the way. Other than that, check the website, check the links below for all the brands that I use for the tyre warmers, the stands, the consumables for the bikes, everything along them lines to get you ready for your first track day. And aside from that, thank you guys very much for watching and hopefully see you in the next one. Book that track day.